Hello. Let's get this right. Want to have a baby? You're trying to conceive? This is what every parent needs to know. So please do watch this. I am RozyGlow Hannis. I am a sacred union coach. I have spent 22 years working specifically with fertility, pregnancy, birth, postnatal healing, and the first 7 years of life. I've spent all these years training midwives, yoga teachers, parents to be, doctors in principles of consciousness and ease of bringing babies into the womb space and getting them out of the womb space with minimal intervention and utmost consciousness. So I'm inviting you just to take a moment to hear what I've got to say, because I wish every parent knew this information. And it's really important, if you have been trying for a baby, if you have been struggling to conceive, to take note of what I'm saying, because very often we go first and foremost to look at what physical problems exist and why there's a physical impediment, if you like, to conceiving, without considering the psychological, emotional, and spiritual elements. So it's all one and the same for me. I also call myself a multidimensional maverick, which means that I work through multiple dimensions and can see things from multiple dimensions, from the mainstream perspective, and then where people get stuck in the mind, and what it means to actually invoke your soul consciousness and to live on this planet as your higher self, and to be heart-led and soul influenced. Now, this might seem a little irrelevant to what I'm saying, but it isn't. Because the souls that are wanting to come to this earth presently are calling on the parents to be to raise their frequency to the point that as these souls come in and incarnate, they're not going to be picking up a whole load of toxicity that they have to work through in order to help progress the bloodlines. This work has already been done. So I'm intending that those of you who receive this video, that you see it, you know that you're here on purpose. Please take a moment, grab yourself a notebook and pen, and open your heart, open your mind, open your ears, open your whole being to receive this consciousness. You may not know about star seeds, but I work specifically with star seeds, and star seeds are high frequency souls. By that, I mean those souls that have already evolved beyond the conflicts that exist in this dimension, on this physical earth plane. And we come in to support, on a volunteer mission, the ascension of humanity and this planet. Up until now, we have been choosing to come into bloodlines, into families that have a load of stuff to work through, toxic patterns of behavior, unprocessed trauma, relationship dynamics, all sorts of stuff that has gone on for many generations. And we've come in on the basis that we've already overcome these challenges on our own soul journey. So we come in to test ourselves on one level, and also to support those bloodlines clearing the karma drama, the family karma drama, so that it doesn't continue with the next generation. Now, you may or may not know that this planet has been going through a huge ascension herself. She has chosen to move beyond duality into oneness, as our whole universe has. I am here as a spokesperson for the Star Peace Collective. I'm the founder of the Star Peace movement, and you can check that out by visiting starpeaceconsciousness.com. This is really important, because basically what this comes to is this. One of the biggest reasons that it's getting harder and harder for people to conceive with grace and ease is that we are many generations now addicted to adrenaline instead of oxytocin. And this addiction starts in the womb. So if you're new to these two hormones, adrenaline is stress hormone, fear hormone, fight, flight, freeze hormone. It is the sympathetic nervous system dominance that most of us don't even realize we are basically wired to. So we're wired to survive. And oxytocin is the hormone that relates to the parasympathetic nervous system, to seeing through eyes of love, to feeling safe in this world, to being wired in such a way that we thrive. And literally it affects our physiology. So our digestive tract, our immune system, the way our brain is wired, our nervous system, the way it's wired, all of this is affected, our cardiovascular system, everything. And it starts in the womb. So this is why I'd love you to get this message before you're even pregnant. Because when I work with clients, either in a group or one-to-one context, I like to work with them a good year before they actually conceive. Why? Because it takes some time to clear your own stuff, all right, and to integrate it, and then to stabilize in your new frequency. On pure physiology, what's important to understand is that the egg that is released this month is released according to the environmental conditions of 3 to 4 months ago. Okay, so that is 90 to 120 days ago. For sperm maturation, the sperm that's currently being produced, this is produced according to the environmental conditions, the stress factors that you find yourselves in 60 to 90 days before. So we're talking a minimum physiologically of 4 months of needing to do the work that allows you to deprogram, reprogram, reset your being. And, you know, if you've lived your life a certain way, however many years you've lived on this earth, and you've been programmed to live that way in the womb and the first 7 years of life, then guess what? It's going to take a little bit longer for these new habits, new way of seeing the world to stick. So I'm just going to give you a few pointers today that I hope is going to whet your appetite to look deeper into all of this and to take your time, because I know there's a huge pressure on our age and how old we are and how important it is to try sooner rather than later. And the first thing I'm going to say is get rid of the word try, because trying implies hard work. The moment that we're told that we're going to start trying for a baby, we tell ourselves we're implying it's going to be hard work. When you're in a vibrational match with the soul that wants to come to you, when you're in a vibrational match with your partner, when you've learned to relax your being to be oxytocin versus adrenaline dominant, magic and miracles start to happen. And I have seen some of the most amazing things happen in my time working with fertility issues. Okay, so I think it's an 87% success rate. My sample isn't hundreds and thousands, but it is significant enough to say that I've worked with those who have had repeat failed cycles of IVF, and I mean 6-7 cycles. I've worked with those who have had low egg reserves, and those egg reserves have gone up. I've worked with those who've had one working fallopian tube and got pregnant naturally. I've worked with those who look like they've got absolutely no reason why they're not getting pregnant, and this is where we see that there are psychological blocks. And trust me, you may have had babies before, okay, but if you haven't processed the birth trauma from those pregnancies, if you haven't actually processed the maybe challenges that occurred in previous pregnancies, maybe a relationship fell apart, maybe you ended up with postnatal depression afterwards, maybe you even had antenatal depression, maybe you found that you didn't actually experience the motherhood journey that you wanted. All of these things can play a huge factor in whether or not you allow yourself to get pregnant again. So this is for those of you who have no reason why, you don't know why you're not getting pregnant. It's for those of you who've been told that you're getting old and you shouldn't be, or you should be trying some kind of assisted method. It's for those of you who know that you have got some kind of physiological reason why it's more challenging. It's for those of you who it's not you that has the issue, but maybe your partner has low sperm count or the motability of the sperm isn't great. Like, all of this plays a part, okay? And what I want to say is the children that are coming to this world, the souls that are coming, deserve to have parents who are ready to receive them, okay? So it's worth doing the pre-work, because most of us don't even think about anything other than getting pregnant. And then we get pregnant and all we're thinking about is being pregnant, staying pregnant, and then we think about the birth, and all we're thinking about is the birth, but we don't really think about the long-term journey. We don't really think about, have we set ourselves up to be conscious, responsive, heart-centered parents? Have we challenged ourselves to consider the way we were parented and how we want to parent? Because we've been hardwired to parent the way we've been parented, whether we like it or not. So if you, like me, came from parenting that was well-intentioned but rather toxic, then, you know, it's worth you taking the time to clear your own story up and create the space to consider the type of parent you really want to be. And I'll say one thing. Actually, I'll say many things because I usually do. But essentially, there's something that I'm seeing across the board, and that is to do with the medicalization of birth. So we have come to believe through many generations that birth is a terribly dangerous thing. And as a result of that, we must have a medicalized birth. We must be in a hospital, particularly a labor ward. And I know this is a huge thing in the US. In many countries, Brazil, for example, in a lot of Europe, this is the way as well. There's a lot of pressure to be in a high-tech environment in case something goes wrong. Now, what I'm seeing is this relationship between high-tech births that have gone on in the last generation or two, and now the fact that we're needing more and more assistance to get pregnant in the first place. So why is that? Well, let's ask the question first of all. What's the state of your relationship with yourself like? What are your baseline emotions? When you wake up every day, what are the thought forms? What are the beliefs you hold about yourself, about the world? Does it feel like a safe world to bring a baby into right now? Have you thought about that? Do you generally feel depressed, anxious, stressed? How's that going to feel growing a baby in that cocktail of hormones? I'm being pretty straight up with you here, okay? Because your baby is going to grow in you and is going to pick up your physiology. And this is not about blaming mothers, by the way, because every one of us has picked up our ancestral stories through our time in the womb and our early life experience. It's to do with our brainwaves, it's to do with the fact that essentially delta and theta brainwaves dominate us in the womb and in the first year and 7 years of life. And these are highly programmable brainwaves, okay? We get a heartbeat from before 4 weeks gestation. Sorry about that sound, outside things going on. And essentially, what ends up happening is we basically have a load of stuff we need to clear that doesn't get cleared from one generation to the next. If you haven't yet checked out the field of epigenetics, please do, because the field of epigenetics lets you know about how perception of the environment influences the expression of our genes. So many of us are still operating. I'm just going to close the door, just hold on one sec. What those sounds are a really good indicator of baby under construction. Like there's all this stuff sound going on in the gardens around me, and you know, this is the thing, is there's constant building, constructing going on as we are growing babies. And also before we grow our babies, you know, we need to set ourselves up to have the best possible experience we can on all levels. They deserve it, we deserve it, so we have the kind of experience we want. Okay, so as I was saying, epigenetics talks about the impact of previous generations on us currently, our physiology, our mindset, our genetic expression, our emotional disposition, and whether we feel the world is safe or not. And in the simplest terms, all babies are born either wired to survive or thrive. Now, you, my clever being, think about this. In the world around you, what would you say? Do you believe that generally the world around you is supporting you to create a baby that's going to be wired to thrive or to survive? And if you're not sure, just consider the stress factors around you, the stress factors inside of you, because they need to be minimized. We're not saying no stress. Stress can be a good thing. Like, we want to be robust. We want to be able to respond to the unknown, the unfamiliar, the unexpected, but we don't need chronic stress in our lives. So let me carry on with what I'm saying here. The first thing is for our humanity to evolve beyond war, beyond duality, beyond stress and struggle, illness, disease, all of the stuff that's going on in this world today that is a challenge. We need to learn from a very early education to shift our own physiology from adrenaline to oxytocin to become parasympathetic nervous dominant as opposed to sympathetic nervous dominant. So whether that means yoga, meditation, mindfulness, minimizing toxins in our lives. It's not just what we put in our bodies, it's what we put on our bodies and the stuff we have in our environment, like huge toxin detox. Go for it. Okay, really important. Consider also your profession, what you actually do, the kind of chemicals you put in your hair, on your body, your perfumes, your makeup, etc., etc. How much can you shift this so that you're minimizing the toxic load in your body? What about the medications you take as well? Consider that. I mean, some people have to be on medication, but what can you do in terms of your diet to maximize your health and well-being so that you mitigate the negative impact of medication, whatever that medication is? We need to become aware of this. So relationship to self, this is everything I've just talked about now, okay? Second thing is relationship to our partners. Do we have a partner? What is the relationship like? Because I know the moment that we start trying, there's then huge pressure on our sexual relationship, our sacred union, and ultimately what was once fun and enjoyable becomes a duty, becomes a, I'm ovulating, come here. Oh, what a horrible way, personally, in my opinion, for a baby to be conceived. Same with, you know, being conceived in a lab. Yes, okay, that might be necessary, but it's generally much less so than we are told. There are so many things that we can do that will support us to maximize, one, being able to conceive naturally, and two, having a positive result of getting some kind of assistance. So I know that those who work with me double their chances on a minimum of having a successful round of IVF or any form of assisted fertility methods. Okay, so this is really important to do the groundwork. It's worth the money, it's worth the time, because it's not just about getting pregnant, it's about staying pregnant. It's about then having a better birth experience, a better postnatal experience, and after that also a much more nourishing experience both for the parents and the child of growing up, of being in this world. And conscious parents are required. Okay, babies are like sponges. They're picking up all the time, everything around them. And they're not filtering it as, oh, mum was joking, dad didn't mean that. It's all going through as truth. Okay, so there's lots of wonderful teachers that teach about this. I'm not going to go too much into it. I just want you to know that it is really important to remember, if there is a block to you conceiving at this time, there is a reason for it. So rather than going like a bull in a china shop, trying everything you possibly can to make it happen, take a step back, take a step up, re-educate yourself about this. Okay, so where else do I want to say? The new frequency of babies need detoxed parents, emotionally, physically, and psychologically, okay? Because the souls that are coming through now are higher frequency souls. So we need to raise our frequency up to meet them, so that we don't dump a whole load of unprocessed trauma onto them, but we can actually just meet them in their sensitivity, meet them in their extrasensory perception, meet them in the fact that they can see and hear and feel things that maybe we can't, meet them in the fact that they know who they are, without minimizing them, without shutting them down, without telling them to do what we say and not what we do, without, you know, trying to dominate and control them, because that's the way that we were parented. Like, most of us have had some pretty questionable parenting, right? And every one of our parents, I would hope for the most part, well-meaning in their intentions, but we've also had a lot of really messed up people making babies. Let's just face it. Okay, it never was difficult to make babies. And we've had lots of people that have not been conscious about the impact of them on their children. So for our generation, whatever generation you're in, just consider back 2-3 generations of your own family, 3-4 generations of your own family. What would you say has been dominant in terms of what you've learned from your family? And let's also consider the impact of things like wars and genocides that get passed on because it's unprocessed trauma. Okay, 4 generations ago, we didn't have the therapy, the healing techniques, all of the different support networks that we have today to be able to overcome challenges that maybe we experienced. Now we do. There's at least 60 years of pre and neonatal research available. In the UK alone, we have a cross-party political party manifesto called the 1001 Days. That's not from birth, that's from conception. Okay, the impact of conception through to the first 2 years of life. Now, we know with animals that if an animal goes through something traumatic very early in their life, that it seems as though it's set for life, right? I don't consider the impact of pregnancy and birth and immediate postpartum on babies enough, and on the mothers and the fathers. I think it's very, very important we start to do that. And I also want to say to you, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Bruce Lipton and his book, The Honeymoon Effect. I haven't got it here, and The Biology of Belief. So please check it out if you haven't. But what I would like to say to you is this. One thing I've learned as a metaphysical teacher is, even though in the epigenetic scientific research field, they'll say, you know, up until 7 years of age, you can kind of shift things that have happened earlier in life. But once your child's 7 or more, they're kind of stuck with what they've got. It's not true. Okay, we all know about neuroplasticity, and I've learned when I work with my clients that when they clear stuff from themselves, even if their children are adults, the impact that it has is it frees them and it frees their children as well. So, you know, this is where we get into quantum physics. This is where we get into the ability to understand that we're all one. So when one raises consciousness, especially when the mother raises her frequency and does deep clearing, it affects the children, affects the ancestors, it affects the siblings. It's phenomenal stuff. So yeah, it's absolutely vital that your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your partner, your relationship with the world is looked at, okay? And also that you do some research into, well, one, what are you thinking about giving birth? What are you thinking about yourself as a mother, as a father? How are you feeling about things like co-sleeping, about breastfeeding, about your baby being left to cry? You know, there's a book called Why Love Matters, which tells us all about the physiological impact of leaving babies to cry on their adrenal glands, on their nervous system, on the psychological impact that basically says, I'm not important. I might as well not say what I want or need because no one's going to come to me anyway. Now, once upon a time when I was a new mum, and my daughter's now 22, there was a book called The Contented Little Baby, and everyone was reading it. My mum gave it to me so that I could sleep train my child, so that I could get my child into a routine, so that it would fit into my life. And what this meant really was leaving that child, not responding to it the way that it needed to be responded at a very, very young age. Okay, from newborns even, that some of the practices. And I invite you to just remember that just because something's in a book, it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So look at the research behind it. Look at Why Love Matters. Look at what every parent needs to know. Look at Calms. That's another beautiful little book as well. Look at Birthing from Within. It's a beautiful book. Look at The Biology of Belief. Look at The Honeymoon Effect. Get educated. Okay, get educated. The Oxytocin Factor. All of these books are phenomenal. I'll try and put links in the text box for you, but you can Google them. And consider, you know, what you've heard about how you should basically carry a baby, how you should birth a baby. One thing I've noticed is both with the super wealthy and also those who don't have money, there tends to be a tendency to go down the most medicalized route. So the standard practices that are gifted to us are get on the bed, do what the midwife or the doctor tells you, push like you're doing a poo, you know, tuck your chin under, let us tell you what to do rather than you trust your body. And, you know, some prep is required. Okay. If you've just turned up to give birth and you haven't really, we don't know the position of the baby, we don't know how you feel about giving birth, you're in a strange environment, then maybe you will need some kind of guidance and support in that way. But for the most part, we can educate ourselves to trust our bodies. And I see there's these two camps. One is I'll just do whatever I'm told. Right. And this is happening in the higher end too, because it seems that with more money, we think a more sort of how to put this, the better type of birth experience is the highly medicalized one, the one that you can just, you know, have everything at hand that you could possibly need. Designer babies, choosing the date that the baby's going to be born by cesarean, having a tummy tuck. You know, I don't want to judge this, but I want to say bring your consciousness into everything you do. Babies do and have got out of mamas all this time. We're all here, we're all winners, right? So yes, there was a period of time when there was particular trauma around birth and some pretty dodgy practices, all to do with germs and, you know, getting involved and not understanding the natural process of birth. But we're moving through that now. So the important thing is, again, to educate yourself about that other side, because 8 out of 10 women are frightened of giving birth. All right, they don't address it, they hide it, they hide it, they hide it. Do you know that that can stop you getting pregnant in the first place? It can, because you haven't dealt with that. So educate yourself about it. Also, how you feel about the other side. Are you and your partner on the same page in terms of how you might want to parent your child? Yeah, it's good to know this stuff, to bring shadow to light, to prep what you can. And also to know that, you know, I see in the world today those who are free birthing, those who don't want to go near the medical system, those who maybe want a doula or a midwife and want a home birth, or, you know, they don't even want anyone else there. And that's great. That's fine if that's what you feel is right for you. I'm not here to say anything beyond that. In the same way that if you feel that the safest place for you, the only place you're going to relax is in a medical environment. Okay, but how can you maximize your chances of minimizing intervention and actually supporting this baby to come through Earthside? Because I've worked with people to have conscious cesareans, I've had worked with people to have conscious inductions, and I'm not a fan of induction for many, many reasons. Okay, it's not at all my favorite way of bringing babies out, but there've been times when it is the necessary. route to take. Okay, it's few and far between, but conscious cesareans, conscious epidurals, conscious inductions. For the most part, though, if we do the prep ahead, then those things are becoming less and less required. Okay, and I want to say this because it's one thing to do the prep, it's another thing to do the post work. Now, the post work is if you know that things went not as expected, if you feel on some level yourself that, oh, you're a little bit like, whoa, I don't want to say the word traumatized, but maybe you feel traumatized. I know I did after I had my baby. I had a 4-day labor. And, you know, most of that was because I was so scared of giving birth that I wouldn't even let my baby engage in the pelvis. I was holding it up tight. Okay, I forgot to say this, placenta function improved just by teaching proper breathing and reducing stress levels in mums that are so stressed out and angry with their partners and working 12-hour days, right? When we go, oh, I've got this problem, I've got that problem, I'm like, let's look at what's going on with you before we're like, oh, we need another intervention, right? For the most part, remember, your physiology is responding to your psychology and your emotional disposition. That's the stuff we need to deal with. So, where was I going with this? Oh, that was exactly what I was going to say. Basically, there needs to be the education in the postpartum of the repair work, both for the baby and the mother, okay? And the father, if he was there and he saw it, or the birth partner who was there and saw it. Sometimes we see things that really mess us up in our heads. I know I have seen that as a doula, as a birth assistant, a spiritual birth assistant, if you want to use that word. So I've been to plenty of births myself. I've seen the impact of being prepared and not being prepared. I've seen the impact of medical personnel coming in and taking over. I've seen the impact of a medical being coming in, or a birth professional coming in and empowering a woman to trust herself, of doing the repair work with the baby. It can work many different ways. Okay, what do we want to energize? I know we're talking about conception, but I'd like you to think about that other end as well, because that may well be impacting the conception element. So what I see a lot of people doing with regard to trying to conceive is getting obsessed with when they're ovulating, what the app says, what the ovulation stick says. So we're giving our power away to all this stuff outside of us. What about getting to know our bodies? What about learning, oh, my boobs are tingling, oh, I'm feeling a little bit juicy, oh, I can feel my ovaries pinging? What about learning to trust your body's signals? Because that is really important. We keep deferring to external to basically to machines to tell us what's going on. And don't get me started on pregnancy diagnostics. That's a whole other subject, right? But essentially, what I'd like to say is that the more we get connected to nature, the more we get connected to ourselves, the more we learn to create safety inside our minds, our bodies, and our hearts, the easier it's going to be to conceive. And having a partner on board with stretching beyond what they know, their comfort zone, it's important. If your partner believes all he's got to do is just provide the sperm, he needs some re-educating to get him to watch this video, right? It's as important that a man reduces the toxins in his life if he's going to contribute to the creation of a baby, as it is that the mother does. Okay, the placenta, which is obviously the organ that keeps the baby alive and provides the nourishment for the baby in the womb, is made entirely from the sperm, from the DNA from the sperm, from the dad. So dad, you need to be healthy in your heart, your mind, and your body. Having a spiritual connection, all of us, some kind of way to connect to all that is really important, because we're not just physical beings. We are souls having a physical experience, and this planet is going through ascension. The new earth paradigm is an oxytocin dominant, a love dominant, a thriving based timeline. And it is a paradigm that requires us to become that in order to receive the souls that are coming. This planet no longer supports reincarnation. You ain't going to be doing it again and again and again here. So you've got this phenomenal opportunity now to get clear on creating the space for a baby to come in. And maybe you're obsessed about this baby having to come through you in your womb. Well, there are so many souls already born on this planet in bodies that require loving parents. So consider again why it's so important to you that the baby comes through your womb, right? I really ask you to do that, because very often as parents to be, we want to have babies because we've got a lot of our own unprocessed needs and wants that came through our own experience of being mothered and fathered. And it can be part of our healing process, but having babies so that we can nurture our own inner child. Let's nurture our inner child and inner infant first, and then bring a baby in, because as a parent, we're resolved and we're not going to be putting onto them all of our unprocessed stuff. That's the gift you get to give your children if you dare to take on board what I'm saying right now and to consider a different way round. Because I've seen older mothers, 47, 48, get pregnant, have very, very healthy pregnancies and natural births because they were set up for it. Okay, I'd rather that was your truth than you're younger, but you have a highly medicalized conception, pregnancy, birth, traumatic experience that then leads to postnatal depression, and all of it was preventable. Okay, that's why I'm making this video now. So it's really worth you taking this on board. Now, next steps, there's a whole playlist that I've created on this channel, which is Conceive with Ease. I'll put a link to that in the text box and hopefully the end credits on this video. So please check that out, because that will also help you to align yourself with what you need to know in order to conceive with grace and with ease. I'm also planning to create a very accessible course. So I'd love to know if this is of interest to you. If it is, you can contact me through the RozyGlow website. There's a contact form at the bottom. If you look at the bottom of the website, you'll see contact us. Just drop me a message there. You can also comment in this video. But obviously, I'd like to be able to get in touch with you to let you know that this is happening. And the course will be set over probably 8 sessions to support you to know everything you need to know to navigate the system. What do you need to know in the earliest months of pregnancy so you can actually support your baby to be wired to thrive rather than survive? What do you need to do in those first few months when normally people are kind of hiding and pretending that they're not even pregnant and they're quite stressed and worried about it? What do you need to know in order to navigate the medical system, you know, in terms of the types of tests that are offered to you and the way they speak to you, and then what's going to happen in labor unless you choose something different. You know, many women don't realize they need a birth plan, otherwise they're going to go down a trajectory that isn't their choice. You know, what is the impact? How do you get your baby into an optimal position and prepare yourself emotionally and psychologically and spiritually to give birth? What do you need to know about postnatal, postpartum recovery? You know, what are the things you need to have in your fridge when your milk comes in? How are you going to deal with trauma if trauma does come up? What about skin to skin? What about co-sleeping? All this kind of thing. I know many birth professionals who are exceptional experts in the consciousness and the baby creating field. So I really would like to introduce you to some of them. And I want to give you hope, okay? Because I know that when a baby is meant to come, a baby comes. It's about you lining up with your higher frequency and allowing this baby to come in. As harsh as this sounds, the fact that we can't just get pregnant willy-nilly is a blessing in disguise, because we're having to get really, really aligned with our intention, okay? And if you have needed to have your, you know, eggs frozen for whatever reason, or you've been down some kind of medical route, remember also that you can, through your consciousness, go back in time and do all sorts of healing work. So for those of you who are just interested and wanting to know more, check out the playlist. Let me know if you're interested in this course so I can tell you more when it's coming up. I'm putting it together in the next month or so. If you would, what is the next thing that I would suggest? Yoga. So I offer multidimensional yoga twice a week online, and it is yoga that's suitable for fertility. It is suitable for menopause. We do also offer pregnancy yoga classes. So once you're past 3 months, you can go to those. They're online and in physical. The lady who runs those has been mentored by me. She's phenomenal. She's a doula like I am as well. She came through her second pregnancy with me. She had 2 home birth with her second child, and I think with her first as well. Lotus birth, like, there's just so much support for you if you want it. Okay, so that's all available to everyone. For any of you who are like serious about finding out more, you're committed to making a change and you want to do the deep diving work, then please do use the link to book a call. I'm going to put that in the text box as well. We can have a chat about what is available to you, because I have a course called Conceive with Ease. I also have a course called Fearless, Loved Up and Limitless. And as much as it is important, like there's pre-birth trauma work to do, our own birth impact, previous births we've had, clearing stuff, all of that is available. Different packages are available. For those of you who want the one-to-one experience, I support people from preconception all the way through to being with them in their labor and the postpartum period. So again, you know, my passion really is to support the overarching best possible scenario conditions to create the energetics to allow those souls to come through, firstly from non-physical to physical, and then out the birth canal into the world, into the loving arms of their beautiful parents. You deserve to have a wonderful experience. Your child to be deserves to have a wonderful experience. So please do get in touch if you would like to know more. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for liking. Thank you so much for commenting. And yeah, I'll look forward to making some more videos around this. Take care for now.